You guys have been so amazing supporting our show with some of our affiliate links and sponsors. And I just wanted to tell you, we're going to keep it going with Bed and Nails. You guys are loving it. I love it. It is just like the best thing. I lay on this while I sit on it with my when I work, right? This acupressure mat. You know, I love the pillow. The pillow is actually in my bedroom because I use that before bed, but I've started using the mat right before I go to bed. So multiple times a day now, I actually love the acupressure mat from Bed of Nails. So we are going to continue that. You guys have been so great and checking them out and using the discount code nourished 15. So we'll put that in the show notes. You can click on our affiliate link and use nourished 15. We're just going to keep it going. So thank you so much for that. And now, my my next guest on the show is Nicole Hartman. I adore Nicole. She is such a lovely, warm hearted, beautiful soul and just a great, great mama. She's a wonderful mother. She was a PE teacher for a long time, I think about a decade. And now she is at home with her children and these beautiful children that she has. And we are talking about circadian family wellness. And Nicole is just fantastic at sharing so many of these really simple things that we can do, basic tips that we can do to get the whole family engaged in circadian health. So I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed talking to Nicole. Nicole, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
well, I loved being on your show, Quantumly Nourished, which is dear to my heart, all of the quantum and nourished. So you and I have a lot in common. And I really appreciate being on your show and love having you on this show.
Well, thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah. I've always like when we first started in the quantum health world, I was always really impressed with what you were asking and your comments. And so I was like, oh, Nicole seems like a really great person. Let me go see if I can learn more about what Nicole's doing. And over on Instagram, Circadian Family Wellness. I'm all about the family. I wish I had known this stuff when my kiddos were little. So let's start with maybe what brought you to quantum health, and then we'll go into talking more, I'm sure, about family.
Ah, that's like a long and winding road. Goodness, it
You
has
know,
some
because,
sharp turns along the way too. No.
right. So, whatever part of the story you want us to share.
Well, yeah, so I think a lot of it, my husband and I have always been in like that health and wellness realm, and health and wellness and like, physical fitness and stuff it's always piqued our interest. And I'd have to say that the main driver towards all of this, it would be our firstborn, our son, who
Mhm.
was born with Down syndrome, and then developed a whole bunch of autoimmune stuff because of that before the age of 4. And so, uh it's like you try a thing or two and you're like, that doesn't work, like
Mhm.
it and then eventually like you find yourself in this like circadian like lighting space. Like you're like, how the heck did I get here? But I mean, there was a span of years, I mean, it's been years of like trying things on and things don't stick, and then some things do. And then this is like the space that has really stuck, because I think it's like a culmination of all of the things together in a much more like sensical approach to living. And it really has answered a lot of our questions. I can't say that I don't want to give like a false hope and say that, we've taken care of a lot of autoimmune stuff. I mean, we've lessened it, but it's the thing that has worked the most and the most consistent.
Yeah.
So that's
It's
where we are.
the consistency. And you've got a bunch of kiddos that came after that firstborn. So you've got the whole family doing the
We sure did.
circadian health wellness. And it's just so It's so fun to watch the whole family benefit from what you've learned. So thankfully your son has had you learn a lot of things.
Yeah, I would say that he probably has been our greatest lesson in life for a multitude of reasons. And so it is kind of interesting how, you can look back and you can see you can really learn to appreciate the journey, I think,
Yeah.
because while, like in the height of everything is where you 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 learn the most, I think. And it's really difficult at that time, like super difficult when you're in the throes of everything. But you're like, well, if we didn't experience that, then we wouldn't be where we are right now. And so I think it doesn't make it any easier though when you're going through it. I'll
No,
tell you that
it does not. No.
much.
It does not, and it's yeah, hindsight and being able to look back and have some appreciation, I do think that's helpful. But you're right, in the midst of it, when you're trying to figure things out and it's so confusing and nothing is helping really move the needle, significantly move the needle, and the autoimmune stuff is really interesting, right? It's like, what is actually happening here? And what I have found, I don't know what you think, but for me, it feels like circadian health and quantum health has helped me more return to myself more than ever. And autoimmune kind of gives me this, it's like attacking the self, like the self is not recognizing the self on we could even say on a spiritual level, like there's so many levels. And this has really helped me just really feel this centering into myself. I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes complete sense. Like I feel like I'm experiencing that myself at at this
Yeah.
point. Like I think like personally, I've had a search, it seems like, for everything, and I never really move that. And until recently, I feel like this is like a total sidetrack, but I feel like I have kind of lived my life for other people
Yeah.
for a good amount of my life. And this past weekend, like I just like it just everything just came out. And my so like I later I apologized to my husband. I was like, I'm sorry for literally losing my mind. But it's like it does go back to that. And then I can't help but wonder, like, if some of this stuff that I have been holding on to isn't a result, like what am I putting out there to my children? And does that impact him, like my son's autoimmune stuff? And so my husband's like, he's like totally supportive. Like he is like the greatest thing, like the embodiment of love is my husband. And he's like, I'm excited to see where we go with this. And so I can't help but think, like, what are we putting out there to our children? And I don't, yeah, that was a total side note.
No,
So
I like the side note because I feel like it's really the note. I feel like that's what we're talking about on the nourished soul is like
yes,
finding ourselves, returning to ourselves, finding the voice, realizing. And I think when your body is actually getting the right inputs, so your voltage is higher, then all this crap you start to realize it comes up, comes out. And I think that is really actually so helpful for our kids, more helpful. I mean, you and I like to feed our kids healthy
yeah,
food, and we're all into the walking around barefoot outside with the
right.
people. And I think that's beautiful. But what they need to see is that we're growing into ourselves too. We are, experimenting with our own health and open. Like they need to see that. Need to see us doing our own work, I guess is how I would put that.
Absolutely, they do. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, because if they can see you being free in all of those realms, then that is like the greatest thing that I could ask for them as they, journey through their life, to
Mhm.
be free to express like who they are at that quantum level, because then it's like I don't just the idea of being free in thought, in your emotions, in your, just not living by like, oh, I have to eat these certain things too, because if I don't eat these things, I won't be healthy. It's just to be free to be who you are is in the circadian quantum lifestyle, like it really does lend itself to that because you're building that voltage, you're building this intense connection to nature.
Mhm.
And that is where I think we find that healing that maybe us parents really need to help our children. Like
Yeah,
it sounds so like whimsical and like hippie-ish, but it's like, no, man, this is where it is. Like, this is it.
mhm.
We can't be bouncing around all over the place anymore. Like, we got to take care of ourselves. And that's where I am.
Exactly, and I thought I was, and I don't know if you
Right.
right? Like, you and I, long time into, like, health and fitness, and I thought I was. I did not realize how out of sync with nature I had gotten because I was outside a lot, right? So, I'm sure you can speak to this too, like, what shifted? Because people listening might be going, "What are you ladies talking about? Like, what do I need to be doing?" And I would just say, like, you need to get in right relationship with your natural environment in every way, in as simple a ways as you can, in every way. But yeah.
You're absolutely right. Like, it's something like it's silly. Like, when you look up the term, like, go like a forest bathing,
Yeah.
like I know that there's a specific word in, I think it's Japanese for that, but it's like, well, that makes really like strong sense here, like
Mhm.
this is it because it's like you're just when you realize, I think that you are nature too, like that even like the I know the smallest strings of nature, like whatever you can think about to the finest level, even if something of that is as out of balance or if it's tugged on, it's going to affect everything else within it. And so when you think about the simple act of going into a forest or like, going for a hike somewhere, even if you have kids in tow, because that was always my caveat. I have too many kids, like taking 5 kids into a forest is like, that sounds like ridiculous. But it ended up being what we all needed.
Mhm.
Like, because there's that communication on so many levels with it. I mean, you could talk about resonance, you can talk about gaining electrons, all of it. But when you find yourself there, that is it. Like,
Mhm.
I found that my mind stopped being like, crazy, like, oh my gosh, what is happening to, that's much better.
Mhm.
So I think that was like the biggest stepping stone for us was to be able to not live up to somebody else's expectations of what our family was supposed to be,
Yeah.
and like to keep up with the crazy busy, because that was not attainable for our family. And when we stopped doing that and we found ourselves out there going for a hike, whether we walked maybe a quarter mile or something, it was what brought us back together, I think. And that was like, it was like literally stepping out and making your own path, which
Mm.
is part of the journey too, right?
Right,
Am I
it
right?
is. You're exactly right. It is part of the
It
journey.
probably sounds like a jumbled mess, but
No, because it really does stop all the pinging. I mean, because you were a teacher,
yeah,
your husband's working, you were working. I mean, you've
yeah,
got a son and 4 girls. You got 5
yeah,
kids.
yeah, yeah.
And that's just kind of a lot going on. And the last thing I think people would think to do would be to take everybody, just keep everybody outside as much as possible. Like, if you can't do anything else, if you can't figure out the indoor lighting and the whole, just get everybody outside
Yep.
as frequently as you can. Just
Yeah, because that in itself is enough, and
right,
it is enough. Like, going outside for 10 minutes is better than not going outside for 10 minutes. Like,
right.
because it does take work. Like, when they're really young and they can't put their jackets on or their coat or, their shoes are on the wrong feet or something, you're like, or you are halfway to your destination to go for a hike and one of them says, I forgot my shoes.
Yeah,
And then you're like, what are we doing? Like,
yeah. But
yeah,
yeah, but it is a returning to yourself. We are nature. And so this returning to yourself, the slower pace, this really yeah, we could talk about it, the resonance, the
Yeah.
electrons, the frequencies, but you're aligning, like you're made to heal. And so if we have the right inputs, we will heal. And that's what I think you've seen with your son, is that he's got the inputs much
Yeah.
better than. Is there anything specific to him that you've noticed about just the challenges? Like, does it, all this stuff works, but does it work the same?
That's a good question. No one's asked me that question before. Everything I think takes a little bit more time. Okay.
Mhm.
However, I think one of the learning things that you kind of have to unlearn is, well, what is the right time?
Right.
How long is like the body is under no obligation to say, yep, you're going to be better in 3 weeks time, 21 days exactly. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think that's it either. And people with Down syndrome too, things take a little more time. It's just a slower thing. And I think by slowing down,
Mhm.
I think it has actually allowed him to be free. And so, like, we have a chance to kind of compare I hate to use the word compare, but to look at other kids with Down syndrome.
Mhm.
And uh, I know it's a spectrum disorder too.
Sure.
So I can't like put a whole bunch of emphasis on that. But he is more lively. He is by far more active. Like as he wakes up like right around dawn every day, and he's 15 now, so you would think that he would be sleeping. Um but he wakes up and he is on the go right away. Like he's really into Nerf guns right now. And he like terrorizes our neighborhood. Like and he has like this like neck gaiter and he pulls it up around him, puts a hat on, and he's walking around the neighborhood. And, I'm like, oh my gosh. And like rolling around in the grass and stuff. But these are all things that he would never have done if
Mhm.
we hadn't pushed him to be outside.
Mm.
Because he was definitely kind of like an indoor kid, never likes really walking on grass, even to this day, just doesn't like that texture, I
Texture.
guess.
Right? No, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Um, but I think it has really lended itself to him being the full, like allowing him to be who he is. And when I compare him to those, like other kids with Down syndrome that I have the opportunity to be around, yeah, he's way more active. He is definitely like, he doesn't care what other people think at all. Like he doesn't care. And like he will pretend to still like throw, we're not a violent family, like throw bombs and stuff. Like he's really into like the Marines. My nephew is a Marine. And so like he's, doing odd things. Like he just doesn't care.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
and yeah, and he's really like fit, like he's got his like he looks like if you saw him and you didn't know that he had Down syndrome, you would not know based on how his appearance is, like on
Mhm.
his physical body. Cause they tend to be a little more overweight and have struggled with weight issue. But kind of what you learn is, obviously through this circadian is energy needs energy.
Mhm.
And yeah, so
Yeah.
I think we've kind of figured that out, that out for him. So yeah, it's just interesting. It's interesting to compare. Like
Mhm.
it's almost like his mind is a little clearer than most with Down syndrome.
And that's really like,
Yeah.
that really is key, because
Yeah.
for all of us, I don't care what you
Yes.
got going on, the
Yes.
clarity in your mind and the less inflammation in the brain. Because if you have less inflammation in the brain, you're going to have less of the chronic autoimmune and all of the other things, including mental health, right? So, mental health problems. So, I think like that is really it, is this like allowing the freedom of who you are, but you then have the energy. So, your
Yep.
cells actually have the energy. Your body has what you and I would call voltage, that you're literally the battery that is your body is
Yeah.
charging up.
Yeah.
So for people that are listening, they're like, okay, wait, what did you do? How you were on this journey for a long time? Like you just
Right.
started, and I love seeing all your kids' feet. Like they pour the little hot water on the grass and they
They
step
love
in
it.
it
Oh yeah.
with their bare
Yeah.
feet now that it's cold outside. So I love that the whole family is involved. But if you were going to just tell people like where to start, like what pieces seem to make the most difference for your family?
Good question. I'm trying to think where we started. It was going outside at sunrise.
Yeah, sunrise, right?
That's
Like
that's
that's
what it was for us, yeah, and I recognize that
yeah, I'm a
I
big
think
fan
that's
of
where we all
sunrise.
have started. Yeah,
We all
and it
start
does.
there. I swear we all start there.
Yeah, and it took me being willing to get up at sunrise too, because I still had a baby
Mhm.
and, nursing through the night, in which I wish I would have known all of these things because babies are have the ability to establish circadian rhythm too.
Yes, they
And,
do. Yes.
and
Mhm.
it turns out it helps a lot.
Mm.
But, I was exhausted. And so finally I was like, you know what? I'm tired of feeling exhausted all the time. And so I just started going out at sunrise. And then, of course, my girls are really nosy and they want to be with you all the time. And so next thing you know, they're out there too. And then, my son, he comes out too. And then we kind of just established this like, all right, well, sunlight is your first light. And, in the house, we just keep all the lights off in the morning. You kind of go like, I always tell them we go back to like frontier times, like we're going back to the 18th century maybe. And they really don't mind. And yeah, and then we just found ourselves outside more. I try not to force it.
Mhm. Oh,
Um,
yeah. Yeah, because
that's
anything you force, that's
it.
not freedom. That's the opposite, right? You
That
just
is the yep, yep,
start doing the things and inviting people to join you or not invite them, they just come. If you've got the right ages, they would just follow you. And then
yeah,
yeah, and the, invitation as a family.
yep.
Yeah.
Invite them in anytime they can be invited into your life. They will take every minute of it. I mean, that like having kids is like
Mhm.
sometimes you don't want them in, but like when you're in a hurry to get dinner ready and they want to help, and you're like, but it's got to be ready.
I know. You're like, "Can I just do it?" Yeah, no. I wish now I mean, as an empty nester, a new empty nester, I'm like, "Oh, just cherish every second because it goes by so fast," but also, that, you just want a piece just a minute of peace, like, I just need some peace. And I feel like with these strategies that came from quantum, like studying quantum health, which are so simple, like it's really like about sunrise, it's about being outside. I think you and I should talk a little bit about, I have always been cold. Like I'm always free. I wear fleece in Florida in the summer. I'm cold. I am not cold. We were on a walk the other day and my husband's like, "This is just too cold." And I was like, "What is wrong with you?" Like I didn't even have a jacket on. I'm like,
Wow.
"This is unbelievable to me." Like my body is now our circadian rhythms. We can entrain. This is what keeps us flexible and able to adapt. And if we're supporting our circadian rhythms, we become more adaptable. Well,
Yeah.
don't you think if we're more adaptable to the weather, we're probably more adaptable, period? Like with emotions and able to ride the waves of life and emotions and seasons. I just think I really think it's amazing. So, like,
It's
and the,
sensical.
yeah,
Yeah, like
it's sensical. And
yes.
the peace of mind, like needing some peace, I can step in the grass and in 2 seconds, my whole body is like, I'm at peace. So
Yeah.
whatever chaos is going around me, which is not a lot of chaos at the moment, thank you. But
Good. Yay.
I know, but when it has been like you just center yourself. You're just in a better place. So that was a lot to say. I'll turn it over to you and see what you think.
No, yeah, absolutely. I as when there is chaos, it does like you just, you get so wound up sometimes and then it's like a light bulb goes off and you're like, go outside. Like it just becomes one of those things where it's like, I should just go outside right now. And it it works. So we're like, if your children, if you're like kind of like in an irritated mood yourself, and of course then your children are gonna sense that and then want to keep that going for you. Um My first thing I say, go outside. You guys got to go outside right now. And we all come back together then so much better. So it just makes sense.
Right, right, and I think, I mean, a lot of us were told that when we were little, just go outside, and we didn't. Some did, some didn't, whatever. But I
Yeah.
just think it's just a habit, and I know your whole family. Once you started taking walks, like you're more cold adapted, heat adapted,
Oh
is what
yeah.
I've heard you talk about, right?
Absolutely,
All
they
of you.
are. Like it
Yeah.
it is interesting to see because we had some really cold weather just recently. We had a bunch of snow and then we had some cold weather. I mean, we were looking at like 8, 7 degrees.
Yeah.
Um, and they never once fought me to go outside in that. I mean, they were in their snow stuff and everything. And of course the snow was inviting, but they never hesitated. They can be outside in like a 30-degree day today or 40, which feels really warm compared to 8 now.
Yeah.
And they're like, man, it feels like it's like 50 degrees outside today. So they really do. And even my 5-year-old, like when we started this, she would never want to go outside if she wasn't bundled up. She's outside all the time now. And so I definitely think, I think age has something to do with that, but she doesn't mind it anymore. And she comes back in with her little rosy cheeks and everything. And, but definitely, and kids are so resilient to, I think the temperatures, they have, what do they have? That brown fat, all that
That's right.
brown fat and stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I
Mhm.
just think that they just love that. And I think they like the freedom of being outside too. I'm sure that they can sense that because I think they recognize that it's part of who they are.
Mhm.
And they probably feel I, I have to think that they know it makes sense to them
Yeah.
to be outside.
Yeah.
I guess I
It
feel
it
that.
it mu
So
right, yeah, right, it must be, like, part of who we are that we lose, but we can get it back, so that's good. And
right.
then when you think about, like, being a teacher and school, like, would you have been would you
Ugh.
run outside? What would you do? Like, I just think,
If
um
you are a teacher, you mean?
yeah, or for people who work indoors, like, at the time that you couldn't just run outside because 'cause you've got a whole class or
Right.
whatever it is. Like, I think there's so many reason people will come up with so many reasons why they cannot do
Oh
this.
yeah.
So I
Oh
just
yeah.
thought we would, have
Yeah.
some ideas about that.
Yeah, for sure. So my husband taught for 16 years. He just left teaching this year. And we had started living kind of like a circadian lifestyle when he was still teaching. And when he would be in health class, like being in PE isn't so bad because you do tend to go outside a lot more. But in the winter, it does make it tough. But when he was in a health room, in a classroom, every day, lights were off. The only lights that were on were the emergency lights that would always be on. He would crack a window and he had a door, and so every now and then, he'd be teaching, open up the door, peek outside, let some sunlight in, and this is in the middle of winter. And he found that one, it made him feel better,
Mhm,
and two, his students actually liked coming into his classroom
mhm.
for the environment of the classroom. They liked him, like he was really
Yeah,
a
he's
good
a
he was a
great guy.
great teacher. Yeah.
Yeah,
um
yeah.
he definitely understood like the freedom of kids and especially middle schoolers and expressing
Yeah.
their oddities. um but they would always say, I just really like that it's dark in here, and I like that the windows open, it smells different in here. And they had some testing, and when they came back into the room, whoever the teacher was in the room had the lights on, and they all came, he said they all walked in, they were like, why is it so bright in here? I like that it's so bright in here. And so if you are a teacher, try that, just turn the lights off.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and if you have a window that opens, how lucky are you?
Right. Right.
Wherever you work, like, yeah, just, like, work
Yeah.
on the lighting, work on taking breaks outside, crack the window on the way to work or the way
Yeah.
home from work, like, all the little things that you
All
can
those
do
things.
to get the light right. But if I
Right.
were a teacher or if I'm sitting on an earthing mat right now because I'm inside
Ooh.
with,
Okay.
and I usually crack the window, but I didn't, but still, like, if I were a teacher, I would have my earthing mat in my classroom, For sure. That
That's a good
I don't know if
idea.
how
Yeah.
many teachers are gonna be listening. I don't know why I said that, because it's
No,
really
that's
people,
fine.
any
Yeah.
people that
Yeah.
have how this is not gonna work for them, or that their kids, they're in the city or they can't do or whatever. I'm like, I was in the city for 49 years, like, right in the city, and so you gotta find your patch of grass, you gotta
Yeah.
find it some dirt somewhere,
Right.
and take or make it a like, the weekends or your
Hmm.
vacations, like, as much as you can earth, like, get your
Yeah.
skin on Earth's surface.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you want it to work, it will work.
Right,
You
that's
know,
true.
like we can't, keep excusing our way out of all of it. It will work. You just have to want it to work, like
Yeah. But
I
and
don't
I
know.
think if you were so tired of being tired, so you decided to do sunrise. I do think there is
Yeah.
this place of
And
like, I am so tired of feeling like this, whatever that is for people, that they're like, all right, fine. What do I have to do? Like, where do I need to start? So
yeah, and it kind of sounds funny to think I'm so tired of being tired, so I'm going to get up really early.
I know it's so counter, but that is the exact thing that I tell people that all the time, and they don't believe you at first,
Oh,
but
right.
if they'll do it, they're like, "I cannot believe that this is working." And the other thing that's really been big for a lot of my clients is they didn't realize that blocking the blue light at night was gonna work, like, immediately. And
Yeah.
so, like, they are gonna be tired at night when you're supposed to be tired and ready to go to bed, like, immediately the first, second time they wear these blue blocking glasses. So I
Yeah,
don't know what y'all do at home.
yeah, um we don't have like electronics like that. I mean, my husband does for his job, but he wears like the oranges and stuff after a certain time. We don't watch TV at night, so I can't say, to speak to that. But if there is like a sporting event or something that they want to watch, we do have like yellows and oranges for the kids to watch, to use. Um,
Right, because 'cause
but
y'all are
we
big
do,
into sports, so everything is
yeah,
about sports in that house.
everything is sports. Yeah, for sure. Uh,
Yeah,
somehow. Um, and then we just keep lights off.
right, so
I
that's
know
what I was
that
gonna
sounds odd. What's that?
oh, that's what I was gonna ask, like, do you have, like, amber light bulbs, or you just keeping
Yeah, I mean,
everything
every bedroom has red light bulbs, and actually our girls' bedroom, the overhead light went out, the bulb went out, and I just haven't replaced haven't replaced it. And so they had a lamp in there anyway, so I just replaced it with a red one, and they don't mind that. And then like we just kind of keep everything low, and they get really used to it. And they're old enough now that I have these like real little, they're real small little lanterns. And I have like a non-toxic oil that I use in it. And so that's what we eat dinner by in the winter. And then I'll take them into like we have this other little record room we call it, where we play records, and they like to, practice putting in there. So that's what we did the other night. And it's really cool because it really changes like the ambiance of the room, and that kind of sounds, I guess, silly, but it does calm them down. And so when you're thinking about kids and being ready for bed because you're ready for bed, that really helps. So give that a try.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with the whole process and the yeah, and being flexible when there's an event to go to or something, but your kids
Yes.
okay, so 15 to 5, how
Yeah.
old is everybody now?
It goes 15, 13. We're about to be in like an odd year.
Right.
15, 13, 10, 8, and 5. So,
Right.
um, yeah, so I don't I struggle with this the most only because like I tend to be like, "Oh my gosh, what's going to happen if we do this?" So we do have some activities at night. 3 nights a week right now. And so at first I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be so bad." Like they're not going to want to sleep, and their melatonin. Oh no, not the melatonin. And so
Right, right, right. Of course.
like you can work yourself up, and like I have found I've really put myself in a place of if they find an extreme amount of joy in what they're doing, we're
Right.
going to ride with that because I can't control everything. And we do, we're so different anyway, like their parents, my husband and I show up to their like jujitsu practice with yellows on because they won't let us wear our oranges and like a hat, you know? And
Yeah.
so they're already like fielding questions of why do your parents wear those things? And they're my oldest daughter's always like, it's circadian rhythm stuff, the bad blue light stuff. And like her friends are like, oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and I wear the orange blue blockers to like if I ever have to go out, like a Christmas party, I had them on, and people think that that's like your style or something. And I'm like, are they like groovy glass? I'm like, I'm not wearing these for style, people. I'm wearing 'em because you people won't put the lights, you won't get your lighting right, and so I gotta wear blue blockers everywhere I go. And you seem like the weirdo, but really they're all complaining about how they don't feel
Right.
very good about, and their weight's not great and their sleep is bad. You're like,
Right.
right. Yeah. But
Yeah,
it's all, it's all a
it
process.
is. Yeah.
And
So
it's,
yeah,
yeah, and a
they should
willingness, right?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There's a willingness to it. Yeah. They should start making, blue blockers and like the hippie type glasses, like little heart-shaped lenses. That would be a lot cooler because then it could be part of your style. You never know.
Well, I think they probably do have them. Yeah, and then people are like, "Oh, rose-colored glasses." I mean, but my kids when I didn't know all this stuff. I just knew enough to like keep everybody outside and busy. I didn't know
Right.
anything about circadian health. I didn't know any of this. I didn't even know that the light was the problem on all the devices. I just had heard,
Okay.
right, we should keep them off of that stuff as much as possible. Okay. So my husband would come home from work and be like, "Why are there rocks all in the sink? It's scratching the sink." I'm like, "Look, dude, we do what we have to do to keep everybody away from the screen. I'll buy another
Yeah.
sink one day. I don't care about the
The
sink.
rocks. Why is it always rocks?
Rocks and bugs and jars and, like I really I was cool with whatever
Yeah.
if going with it, if it brought them joy, if it kept them out. So we're just yeah, we're doing all kinds of things. But my kids always used to say, like, "Oh, my mom and her hippie Buddhist stuff." And I was like, I'm like not even crunchy. Like, I'm working my way towards crunchy, but I'm not even a crunchy mom. I
You're like,
love,
thank you. Thank you for
yeah,
the compliment.
thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that. Yeah, so they think I'm just nuts, but
That's
that's okay.
okay. You sleep great at night. So that's all that matters.
And I have the energy and I'm always available when they're like, "Mom, this
Right.
happened. I need that," and you're like, "Okay, what's going on? What do we need? I'm on
Exactly.
deck."
Right.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's great though. Yeah, I think it does lend itself. Like I think as parents, yeah, I think especially as moms, like we intuitively know some things.
Mhm.
Like I often ask myself, like, what do I actually know?
I ask myself that too, Nicole. Yeah, like, what do
And
I
like
know?
because oftentimes stuff is just kind of like we learn something, so it's you're learning through something else. But like, what do I know? And my resounding answer is I know my children, and I know what they need, and I think we all know that they need outside time,
Mhm.
but sometimes that it's like, the easy thing is, well, just go watch TV or something. And I'm not going to pretend that I haven't done that,
Oh, I
but
did a lot of that too. I mean, yeah,
yeah, because you're like, it's so overwhelming sometimes,
yeah,
right? Yeah. So I, it's understanding that there is a delicate balance with it though.
right.
Yeah. So
Yeah. And I think, they're all on their own journey and all we can do is the best we can do while they are with us. And I just thought the best thing I ever did was really working on my own health for my kids. Like really doing my own deep inner work too. Like all the junk that's in there, all the
yeah.
emotional stuff, the spiritual stuff, like the more centered and clear I could be, the better I was for them, the more present I could be for them. And that's, really was the best gift I think I could give to them.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. I had a thought come into my head the other day, and I actually said this on one of my podcasts, was if I want those things for my children, I have to want it for myself too.
Mhm.
And I think oftentimes, like, we do live our lives for our children, for our families. And like you said, though, if I want them to be the best that they can be, I have to be that. And that might mean, being uncomfortable sometimes and digging a lot of holes.
Mhm.
Uh, but it's worth it.
I
It's
agree.
worth it.
I agree. I think it can be messy and hard, and I'm not talking about holes in the yard, people. I'm talking
Right?
about digging
Right?
into your own soul, your own yeah, um,
Maybe digging holes in the yard might be cathartic in some way,
actually,
So
for 100%, we did a lot of that too. Like, I used to say my kids were digging to China, like, they were just always digging holes in the yard,
right.
and I was really okay with all of that. Some people are but yes, so yes, digging holes. Literally, figuratively,
Right.
all of that, and you're right, like, if we want our children to have that sense of real freedom, but yet centeredness in themselves, like, how are they gonna do that if we don't have our true north? So,
That's exactly it.
yeah,
And I will say
yeah,
that when you start taking them outside,
yeah,
something does change, and they do know it. So, for example, something that my husband and I realized, every time we go into the forest, every time we do that or find like a path, we have this beautiful national battlefield by us. And every time we do that, every single one of them, I don't demand thanks from my children, like, for really anything, like, they don't have to thank me for feeding them, like, that's just my job. But um every single one of them on the way home will say, Thank you, thanks for taking us, thank you." Like, every single one of them at a different, point on the way home will always be appreciative of it. And I again, I can't help but think that it's because who they are. Nature is children. Like,
mhm,
they're just they're amazing. Like,
yeah,
they are really amazing, and it's part of our job, I think, to help them get to that part, if that makes sense. Like, to find that piece of them, because
yeah,
it's part of that nourishment. So,
right, exactly. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so is there anything as we wrap up, because this has been so much fun, is
yeah.
there anything else that we missed that's very nourishing to your body, mind, soul that you wanted to share?
Um, I would say never stop searching.
Mm,
Like, there has to be, like, I know that you can just become content, but and there should be times where we pause and really reflect, but just keep searching for that nourishment. Like, we all experience it differently, and I'm going through I guess maybe a reverting back to the source of some sort, I guess. But, like, I don't know. As parents, it's a really cool job. It's a really cool opportunity.
yeah.
And our children can be a part of our growth too.
Oh, they're the
Like,
biggest part of I mean, I think they can be like a
yeah.
huge they can be a big motivator to the growth too.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah. So just
mhm.
keep going,
Keep
you know?
going. Keep yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
find yourself outside many times a day, and
Yeah.
it all works out, you know?
Yeah. Well, want people to come follow you on Instagram because it's so fun to
Oh,
watch the
thanks.
whole family, and you're always doing cook everything, like, outside, the cooking, all of it, and it's
We
fun to
do.
watch.
Yeah. That's
Circadian, family,
circadian.
wellness.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
That's it.
and then if they wanna check out your podcast too,
Oh, I always forget about that.
yeah,
I'm really
Quantumly
bad at
Nourished.
self-promotion.
Yeah, we wanna make sure that yeah, we link
Yeah, it's
all
at
these things.
Quantumly Nourished.
Yeah,
So,
but
finding nourishment in all of the things. That was my idea. So,
yeah, I think yeah, it's really fun to listen to too, so Yeah, so thanks for
Well,
coming on. Thank you
yeah.
for having a conversation and being so wonderful in the world.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.